Hey everybody, and welcome back to another tutorial here at Latino Art. My name is Jacobo Lobo, and today, in this episode or this tutorial of staying creative with minimal art supplies at home, we're going to be talking about drawing, and that's going to be the focus of this drawing tutorial. And we're going to be looking at two different aspects of drawing. The first one is warm up, and then using guidelines, and those two are some of the most important aspects of drawings that are often overlooked, especially as people get more advanced at drawing. They overlook the warming up process and then using guidelines, because once you get used to using guidelines, they become so inherent and you can kind of almost see them without drawing part of them. All right, let's get into the warm up. So for warming up, you're basically going to be drawing some simple shapes. And the main focus of this section is that you want to grab your pencil, and your first instinct might be to grab it like you're about to write something. And I want you to stay away from that, because part of this warm-up activity is practicing your pencil grip. There are many different types of pencil grip, as you might know. This one in particular is best for use for writing, but since we're going to be drawing, I want you to try practicing a more relaxed pencil grip. One of the best ways is to open up your palm, place your pencil, and then close your palm simply like this. So you have the pencil between your index and your thumb, and then you're able to draw. You're able to draw some very simple lines. All right. So we're gonna be loosening up our pencil grip. We spend so much time tightening up our pencil grip that it's worth spending a few minutes loosening it up. I know that this is a little bit weird for some if you haven't practiced it for a while. So you might want to have this pencil grip, but what I want you to do is move your pencil out. All right. What I want you to practice here is that grip, drawing simple lines or simple shapes, but then also being very light with your hand. When you're light-handed, meaning that you're not pressing really hard with your pencil or with your tool. Okay, I want you to draw different types of shapes, different types of line. Let them loop. Maybe they're zigzag, but I want you to loosen up your pencil grip. Okay, you are practicing how to draw the guidelines that we're going to be using next in our next step. I can't tell you how important practicing or warming up is. The warm up, like if you're an athlete, you want to warm up, otherwise you're going to pull something, right? Well, similar to drawing, if you don't warm up, if you don't loosen your pencil grip when you're drawing, chances are you're going to be very heavy handed and you're not going to be satisfied with what it is you're drawing. So try different types of shapes, different types of lines. As you can see, I'm drawing. If I draw a square, I'm going to draw short motions to create that square shape. If I'm drawing a circle, it's going to be one fluid or an oval, depending on which direction it's going. If I want to draw a circle, all right. So you're going to practice all those different shapes. All right. Remember, this is warm up, and you want to loosen your grip. We're not writing, we're going to be drawing, so that's the main focus of this warm-up activity. All right, so now we are ready to draw, and we are going to remember our focus, which is going to be using guidelines to build a drawing. So in the last section, we were warming up, using our pencil, drawing simple shapes. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to be using a highlighter, and the reason for that is I will continue to practice my soft pencil grip, which I want all of you to do, but what happens when you start drawing and you start adding your guidelines, and as you get towards the end of the drawing, you will start creating definition lines, and normally what we do is we erase the guidelines and we only want to see the final result, right, which is the top layer of lines, which is our, and typically ends up being our final drawing. But I'm going to simulate my guidelines by drawing with this orange Sharpie. So you will be able to see all my guidelines once I get to the end and I start adding in my definition lines, which will be the more complete drawing. and we won't be erasing them. And that's important for the tutorial purpose because I want you to be able to see how the drawing kind of is built. All right, so now the idea of this is for us to have a little bit of fun drawing. So I want you to find a comfortable place at home where you feel good, you feel comfortable, you've gathered all your materials, and you'll be able to sit for a few minutes in peace and take your mind out of your busy day, probably being cooped up in the house a little bit, and you'll be able to focus on drawing. I recommend, if you're like me, if you like to listen to music when you draw, I recommend you check out our Spotify playlist. We have a Latino Arts Inc. channel on Spotify, and you'll have some really great choices to listen to while you draw. All right, so now the question is, what are we going to draw? Well, part of this video is going to be an invitation. It's an invitation to draw birds from Latin America. Let me adjust this. I'm going to prop this here, and I think we're good to go. So here I have this really beautiful bird. It's called the guardabarranco from Nicaragua, and it's the national bird. It's actually all through Central and Latin America, but this is the national bird of Nicaragua. And as you can see, it has a really beautiful color, or different colors, and then it has this really unique tail. And the guardabarranco is quite beautiful. And what we're going to be doing is, through learning how to draw different birds or different objects, really anything using guidelines, I want to invite all of you to draw a bird from the country that you might be originally from, or your parents or your grandparents. We Latinos often have diverse backgrounds where we have multiple heritages in our families, especially if we've been in the United States quite a bit. So I want to invite you to find a bird that has a special meaning for you. It might be the country where your grandparents are from, or your mom or dad, and I want you to draw that bird using this technique that we'll cover right now. All right, so guidelines. Remember, I am going to be using the highlighter instead of a pencil because I want you to be able to see how I built this drawing, and I won't be erasing at the end. All right, so what I want you to notice is on our guardabarranco, we have one big shape which makes up the body, and then a medium-sized oval-like shape that makes up the head. We have a triangular shape that makes up the beak, and then we have this long rectangle that kind of makes up the kind of the main part of the tail, and then we have these two lines that connect the rest of the tail to this really beautiful, unique kind of triangular, almost heart shapes. All right, but if you also look at the body, it kind of has that heart shape too. All right, so the first thing that I want you to do is kind of establish where the top of the bird's head is going to be, and you're going to draw a nice light line. Okay, notice that I'm not gripping my pen or my highlighter very tightly. I'm holding it further back. Okay, so this is going to be where the top of the head is, and then I'm going to go to the bottom and give myself kind of a barrier. Do not go past that line. All right, and then I'm going to look at my kind of size of the bird, that I can kind of see that the head is going to be about that big, and the body is going to be a little bit bigger, and then we're going to have section 4, the tail, and then the rest of the tail here. All right, so like I was noticing, this body shape is almost like a heart. So when I look at that, I kind of get this sense that it kind of has this heart shape. All right, it might be a little bit smaller, but I can adjust that. And remember, if you're using your pencil, you're going to draw in very light, so you'll be able to define that shape a little bit more later. All right, I'm not getting into any of this detail in the picture. Okay, so I have that shape, that kind of heart shape that makes up the body. For the head, you kind of see an oval shape, but the oval shape is not going straight up or down, it's at an angle. So I'm going to draw this oval shape. All right, so I have the kind of the head, the body. Again, two very simple shapes. All right, now I'm going to look at the beak. In the beak, I kind of see that it overlaps this oval quite a bit, kind of goes into it, and then we have this long rectangle type shape. Notice I am not going to close the rectangle. I just have an understanding that is the shape of the beak. All right, now I'm going to take a look at the overall feel of it. It's coming along nicely. I can tell that I'm going to end up kind of trimming this a little bit here. All right, but again, remember I'm using the highlighter because I want you to see how I'm making corrections to my guidelines. All right, then now I'm going to look at the tail. The tail's here, and it's a very simple shape. It's a very rectangular shape, maybe a little bit longer. All right, and then we have this this lines that are part of the tail feathers. You can kind of see that it kind of overlaps the front, and one is coming towards the back, and they kind of come down, kind of like that. You might have noticed that because I am holding my mark making tool, my highlighter, further back, I have to move my whole arm around, which is very important. It's one of the things that this soft grip forces you to do. If you're doing a writing grip, you are going to be conditioned to make small little lines, and then your hand slowly moves as you write it. Right? You're writing and you go slowly, 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 and you can repeat kind of like a typewriter. So if you hold it back, your whole arm is forced to flow through the paper as it should be when you draw. All right, let's go back to this simple shapes down here. I definitely see that triangular shape, but I also kind of feel this heart shape that's here. Okay, and look at all my beautiful sloppy lines. Those are great. That's what an underdrawing should look like. All right, so now I'm going to draw this branch that this bird is sitting on, a guardabarranco. All right, so I kind of scoops down like this, and it has two edges, so they kind of run parallel, like so. All right, so now I have the basic guidelines of this guardabarranco. Now I'm going to start looking at how I can modify these shapes. All right, so I can tell that maybe the top of this head is a little bit big. All right, so I'm going to trim it. I'm going to make sure that my lines, the top part of the head is right here. And then we have kind of like the forehead area. All right, I can tell that this is kind of overlapped by the face of the bird, and I can see that the eyes are kind of like right here. It has this really cool different color feathers throughout. All right, one of my favorites is this black streak that it has under its eyes. All right, and then here it's kind of like the back part or the end of the beak. And then one of the things that I noticed is that we have this basic oval shape, but the bottom of the beak is made by all these little feathers that make its neck up. All right, and then maybe he's not so wide here. I can tell that I will need to trim him a little bit right here. Okay, and these are all lines that I would be correcting using my pencil. I would be drawing lots of sketchy lines, drawing them lightly, because I know that they're only there to guide my definition lines towards the end. All right, and then I can correct this because I can tell it's a little bit thinner in the real bird. All right, now if we look here, we can see that one wing is overlapping the other, and now I can maybe add a little bit of definition to this wing. All right, now here the back of the neck is not so round, right? It has this angle, and now I'm able to connect that, and you can start seeing kind of like the bird take a shape. Okay, there we go. I think that's good. That's good. We have most of our features defined. We have the shape of the beak almost defined, and we're able to look at the basic guides or the guidelines. We were able to see the guidelines that make up this bird, which is a guardabarranco. All right, so the next thing would be to add definition. All right, feel free to take as long as you want with this section. Make sure that you are taking your time practicing guidelines. You take your time, draw as many as you want. Don't put the pressure on yourself to have to make it perfect on the first try. It does not work that way. Trust me, drawing does not work that way. There's a lot of sketchy lines, a lot of erasing before the final product. All right, so let's start by adding definition to this guardabarranco. All right, so where I want to start is I'm going to start kind of like in this area right here. And I'm going to start with the bottom of the beak. I'm going to find the place where kind of like the beak starts, and I'm going to pick this little area here. And the beak, while it's a long, straight shape, it's kind of has all these little tiny, little fuzzy lines that are little tiny feathers that make up part of the beak. All right, so I'm going to start with my definition lines, and I'm going to draw that as the bottom of the beak. I see the top of the beak also has this part where it kind of meets up with the head of the bird, and I'm going to draw the beak. Okay, and I'm going to draw the bottom part of that beak. All right, and then I'm going to move into some of this, trying to define some of those lines. And I'm looking at some lines that are defined, and then there are some lines that are more suggestive. And sometimes we use broken lines, like this little marks, to signify an area that is a little bit softer, not so hard like you might see here on the bottom of the beak. As you can see, there you go. All right, so now I'm gonna go to the top of the head, and one of the things that I can see is that before I had added a little bit too much to the top, so I'm going to now start adding a little bit more definition here. And if you notice that my grip is tightening up a little bit, and that's fine, because in this step we want to be able to create those definition lines. So your grip should be a little bit tighter, but not by much. All right, so here we go. We have the top of the head, and notice that I'm being a little bit sketchy still with my lines, to kind of simulate all those layers of feathers. All right, now I'm gonna get into the eye, and I'm gonna start drawing the shape, and I'm gonna add a little bit of highlight because I kind of see that there, and I'll fill in that eye. All right, and then we start defining some of those areas where we have different colors, but we're not gonna get into color with this tutorial, but we will in one in the future. Possibly I'll leave this drawing of the guardabarranco like this and come back and add color. I think that's a good idea, and that's what we'll do. All right, so I'm just gonna add some definition to the main features of this bird, and we are going to move on to the body, but I won't color it. We'll come back in the next tutorial, and then we'll add color to it. All right, so here we have guardabarranco, and then I'm going to draw this side of the body, kind of keeping my shape, my overall shape, but you can see all the other orange lines that I had created, but I no longer need. So I am just drawing within those guidelines and picking up some more detail that I see. So like those little lines that make up the different shapes and where the different colors are. All right, I'm gonna go to this side, kind of like the shoulder area. And continue. Notice that even though I'm using a marker, I'm not holding it like a pencil or something else. The marker is going to give me a nice solid black line. I don't have to press hard on it. I basically just have to guide it throughout the paper. So now I'm gonna go into the tail. Remember, it's basically a basic rectangular shape. All right, so I'm just going to kind of trace parts of it. Like I said, some lines could be suggested, and I'm going to continue my drawing. See a little bit more detail here. And I'm going to start with this line. It goes all the way down into the tail. Kind of see that shape here. And then I see this black line kind of comes from behind the tail. And it goes into this really unique and beautiful kind of like heart shape. Yeah, it's kind of like a triangle. It reminds me of the feathers on a dart. Alright, and then lastly I'm going to add this little leg that you kind of see peeking through, and then the rest of the tree branch here. Again, remember, it is okay to have lots of sketchy lines. These are practice drawings, and they are fantastic for practicing these guidelines and getting some really neat results of when you're drawing or you're a beginner drawer. And don't put that pressure on yourself to have something that's completely perfect. Again, I want to invite all of you to share your drawings with us, and I think this is a good stopping point. You can kind of see the definition of all of the main parts of the guardabarranco, and the next thing would be, if I were drawing with my pencil, once I have my lines defined, I will grab an eraser, whichever kind of eraser you have, and I will start carefully erasing all those guidelines because they've served their purpose. So hopefully you found this drawing tutorial useful. Please take our invitation to share birds from Latin America that might be part of your cultural heritage with us at Latino Arts Inc. through Facebook and Instagram. Thank you very much. Like I said, our next tutorial is going to be coloring, and we hope you enjoyed it, and stay connected with us. Let us know what you think, and have a great day.